Welcome back to another team stream, you guys. We are going to go over React Developers 2.2 lesson, rendering UI with React. So here we actually get to learn a little bit more code stuff, which is very fun. Very fun and awesome. I'm not yet building anything yet, which is a little bit sad, but only a little bit because there is a lot to learn. So anyway, this is just more notes going over my Udacity NANODEGREE program for becoming a React developer. I can speak, I promise. And I wanted to go over my lesson notes with you guys in case you are interested in learning React, which is an awesome JavaScript library focused on building the UI, focused on building the front end of web applications. So, in this lesson, we actually got into some of the code. It talked about how to create React elements and then how to compose those elements using components. And basically, the way React builds its applications is all composition. They don't use inheritance, they use composition. So you will build elements, you will group elements into components, and then you will reuse those components over your page. It's pretty awesome. I am like learning the bare basics here, and it's really exciting so far. But to go over the notes of the course, of the lesson itself, React is an extension of JavaScript, a JavaScript library. React is not built into your browser. It requires a React environment. So you have to set up additional tools in order to view React, in order to get it running and working in a good environment. We have apps built in React, typically have a single root DOM node. So again, it'll be like a root. A DOM node is basically something that represents an HTML element. That's like my understanding of it. So you might have in a React application a div tag with the ID root. And then everything else in your application will be inside that root div tag. That's what it means by having a single root DOM node, which is pretty standard for any page. I mean, an HTML page typically has like the HTML tags and then everything else is inside the HTML tags. But in this, I've seen examples of it being a div with the ID or class root. A DOM node represents an HTML element. React creates elements with react.createElement, and it takes in arguments of type, props, and content. So type is either going to be a string or a React component. If you're going for the bare basics, let's say it's a string, you would pass in div. And then it will be, this React element will become a div tag on the page. Props could either be null or an object. So you could pass in like a JavaScript object, or you could make it null, or you could pass in, like as part of an object, you would have, this is where you would like set your attributes, I believe, like attributes of the tag. So you could set an ID or a class. I hope I'm saying this right. And then you have the content of what's going to be inside that element. In this case, we're using a hypothetical div tag with the ID of whatever, and you can have it be nothing inside of it. You can have it be like hello world. It could be a string. You could pass in another React element or a React component. So the content can be basically whatever you want. .createElements returns one single element of a particular type. Yeah, so you are creating, with each call, you are creating one type of element, just one. CreateElement returns a JavaScript object that describes a real DOM node. This is important as to like the back end of how React works. In the previous video, when we were going over 2.1 notes, we talked about how JavaScript uses a virtual DOM before it updates the actual DOM, and that virtual DOM is comprised of JavaScript objects. So what CreateElement is returning is a JavaScript object to its virtual DOM with all the information it needs to then create, if it has to create, a real DOM. So the JavaScript object that describes a real DOM node. It might not have to make that real DOM node, but if it does, then it has all the information that it needs to in order to get the job done. This object is used within React's virtual DOM. I just talked about that. JSX is a syntax. So then we go on. JSX is a syntax extension. It looks like looks like HTML. It basically allows you to write with HTML elements within your JavaScript. It's a cleaner, easier way of coding with React. So React uses JSX. JSX allows us to write concise, easier to follow JavaScript code. It's very neat and handy. React creates components with class, okay, so this is how we create components. Class, your class, give it a class name, extends React component. So this is how you would create your own component. Class, your name, extends React component. You extend React.component. We use components to construct our UI. It's a key feature of React. The entire idea behind React is to compose your UI with with reusable components. A great mindset is to think, build in terms of components. A great React mindset, excuse me. Components are reusable pieces of code. That's very, very important in this idea, in this mindset. They are responsible for returning HTML to be rendered onto the page. That is what components do. It is their responsibility to return the HTML you'll actually be using on your page, rendering on your page. Render is the only method required in every single React component class. If you're going to create your own class, it needs to have a render method. That's the only thing it needs to have. React's main focus is to streamline building our app's UI. This is what React's purpose is. Streamline building our app's UI. React is only concerned with the view layer of our app. It is a front-end UI building JavaScript library. There's a whole bunch of links down here. I will put them all in the video description if you want to check them out for additional reading. I have gone through some of them. I have not gone through others. So there is the truth of the matter. Lesson 2.2.3. Most widely used build tool for React web projects is Webpack. So again, React can't just be like tested or run in your browser. You need an environment to use React, use it properly, see what's happening. To build out a React application. So the most popular build tool for React web projects is Webpack. Facebook has a NPM package, or I guess you could also call it a Yarn package. I didn't know this, but apparently Facebook created Yarn, and there are some differences between Yarn and NPM. Like, I think a key difference that got brought up is they use a different registry. It didn't get brought up in the class. I did some additional reading and then whatever. I don't exactly know what I'm talking about. I don't know a whole bunch about the package management tools and systems, but what you can do is you can install Create React App, just like any NPM package, and it will install the necessary initial configuration to run to have and then build React web applications. It'll give you a React development environment. This is what I'm going to be using because this is what the course is using so far. It does have Webpack. I've peeked at the package.json file just to see. It has a Webpack, it has Babel, it has like ESLint, it has like Chalk. I like Chalk, I noticed it's in there. It has a whole bunch of other things, but it's supposed to be like a small starter kit, and it's very awesome. So I would suggest you use that if this is your first time doing React. And there's some more information here if you want. Here's the GitHub link. All of this will be in the description below. So if you want to pull up a tab while you continue listening to the video, please go ahead. 2.2.4, components are the building blocks of React. They are the main unit of encapsulation. Components break down the UI into smaller pieces so that we can, compose them, and it's awesome. Pieces with clear responsibilities and well-defined interfaces. So that's what each component is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, again, it's like, I think in the very first lesson, JavaScript, we're coding functional JavaScript, and each function should do one thing. Each component should do one thing. And then we can break them down. They have their clear responsibilities or responsibility. Maybe I should make that singular instead of plural. And well-defined interfaces. Components encourage us to build apps with composition, not inheritance. React focuses on composition. 2.2.5, JSX uses JavaScript to describe the UI using elements, not string templates. Oh, this is the recap here. Okay, so JSX uses JavaScript to describe the UI using elements, like classic HTML elements looking code, not string templates, which is preferable. We like JSX. Components encapsulate groups of elements. We then compose those components to build larger portions of our UI. We can install the Create React App to create a modern React application. It provides a quick start with the latest technologies most commonly used. So that's it. That's it for lesson 2.2. So I will see you in the next video, guys. Hope you have fun. Peace out.